Hey everybody, just want to share a quick little insight from our State General Conference this morning. While I was on my run, I was listening to the October 1931 General Conference, and Antoine Ivins was talking, and he was the president of the Mexican mission at the time. But it was really interesting because whereas he was the president of the Mexican mission, he wasn't in Mexico. And that was because Mexico back in the 1930s had a law that prohibited non-Mexicans from being in Mexico for religious purposes. You were not allowed to be a pastor, you were not allowed to do anything. So he was in charge of the Mexican mission, but the Mexican mission was predominantly based out of the west coast of the United States, and they had missionaries in Mexico that would report on their efforts, but the mission president was never allowed to go down there. And it was so fascinating to hear about his stories and about how they were trying to vicariously do work in Mexico throughout the entirety of the country back in the 1930s through just the local members. And it kind of, made me think about how when COVID hit, how that is what happened in a lot of areas around the world, and how it more or less became the obligation and opportunity of the members to do the finding and the teaching, and the local members really had to step up because in many cases the missionaries were just kneecapped with regulations. And I think that as we come out and as we go back to the old ways before COVID, that it would potentially be something worth not going back to, the idea that it's the missionary's job to find everybody and step up to the plate as members and actually keep our end of the bargain, because Elder Bednar has taught that we are to be the full-time finders and the missionaries should be the full-time teachers. And I thought that was just really fascinating. And then in the second half of his message, he mentioned something that really just hit me. He was talking about the hard economic times, and he pled with the members of the church to donate to the missionary fund, because he said that they were having missionaries who were having to go home early because of the Great Depression and because their family's finances were drying up. And he goes, this shouldn't be. We should never have someone who desires to serve a mission who could not because of financial conditions. And I think that this is super applicable, not just for young missionaries, but also for senior missionaries. I know so many senior couples who would love to serve but can't afford it. And I still know so many senior missionaries who could afford financially, but physically they cannot or won't. And I think that just is a marriage of opportunity right there, that if we truly put our money where our mouth was, that we would have missionaries who are able, serving, and they would be sponsored more or less by missionaries who are physically not able but financially are able to be their benefactors. And then he closes with a very interesting line. He says that the times of prosperity and thrift will be more difficult than the times of adversity. And I think that's a warning to us, because sometimes we think, the saints back in the day had it really hard when the mobs were driving them everywhere. Well, yes, that was hard, but we've been warned that the prosperity and the praise of the world will be more difficult for us to endure than the mobs back then were, because it would be so easy to become complacent and to become casual in our covenants. So, hope you enjoyed that insight.